Listen closely, because what I'm about to say might sting, but it will also set you free. Every day, millions of women wake up fighting a battle no one else can see, the battle against the fear that tries to shrink their power. But today, we're ripping the cover off that fear. Today, we're calling it out. Today, we take back the authority that was always yours. Because the truth is simple. A woman's greatest fear isn't failure. It's living her whole life knowing she never unleashed the fire that was already inside her. You've been told your whole life to soften yourself, to be agreeable, to fit into spaces that were never designed to hold the weight of your brilliance. And over time, that message sinks in so deeply that it becomes a quiet fear, the fear of being too much, too loud, too confident, too bold, too opinionated, too powerful. But the truth is that fear was never yours. It was planted in you by people who felt threatened the moment they sensed the magnitude of who you could become. They were never trying to protect you, only to contain you. From childhood, you were taught to shrink your victories so others wouldn't feel small. You were taught to downplay your talents so no one accused you of arrogance. You were taught to dim your voice so that everyone else could stay comfortable. But the price you paid was enormous. Every time you held back, every time you swallowed your truth, every time you pretended to be less than you are, something inside you cracked. Not because you were weak, but because your spirit was never built for limitation. The real you keeps knocking, keeps pushing, keeps demanding space, but fear tells you, stay small, stay safe. What's wild is that this fear disguises itself as politeness, as humility, as being a team player. Yet if you strip away the disguises, you see the real root. You're afraid of the reaction, the judgment, the labels. You're afraid of being called intimidating or difficult or dramatic or emotional, because society taught you those words are insults when applied to women. But think about it. Why would anyone call you intimidating unless they were already intimidated? Why would anyone call you too much unless they lacked the capacity to handle real power? Their discomfort is not your responsibility. The world benefits from women staying small. Small women don't challenge systems. They don't break patterns. They don't demand more. They don't rewrite narratives. That's why you were trained to back down, even when every part of you knew you were right. That training is what makes you second-guess your instincts, your intelligence, your decisions. You fear stepping fully into your strength because you've been conditioned to believe your power will cost you acceptance. And you're right, it might. But what good is acceptance if it requires you to abandon yourself? Imagine for a moment what your life would look like if you stopped shrinking. If you walked into every room with the full force of your voice, your vision, your fire. Imagine the impact you could have if you stopped apologizing for the very qualities that make you extraordinary. The world would adjust, people would adapt. And the ones who can't, they were never meant to walk beside a woman who knows her value. Because when a woman steps into her full power, she doesn't lose people. She loses the ones who are committed to misunderstanding her. Here's the truth, that fear doesn't want you to realize you were never too much. You were never the problem. Your intensity, your passion, your ambition, these are not flaws. They are indicators of purpose. They are proof of potential. You were not designed to fit into small spaces. You were meant to expand, to rise, to disrupt, to lead. The world isn't harmed when a woman grows. It's transformed. And the moment you stop fearing your own power is the moment everything around you begins to shift. There's a pressure that hangs on women like a weight, the expectation to be everything all at once without faltering. You're supposed to look flawless, work tirelessly, love endlessly, forgive instantly, and still maintain the calm, polished presence the world demands from you. And because the standards are impossible, that quiet fear grows. The fear that you're not enough, that you're falling behind, that you're failing at roles you were never meant to perfect. This fear doesn't show up as a scream, it shows up as a whisper, a doubt planted deep inside you that questions your every move. And even when you succeed, even when you excel, it tells you it's not quite good enough. That if anyone saw the real you, they'd pull their approval back like a rug from under your feet. The harsh truth is that this fear didn't come from within you. It was taught, passed down, reinforced through comparison, criticism, and silent expectations. Every time you saw someone praise a woman for being effortlessly perfect, you learned that struggle makes you inadequate. Every time a mistake was judged more harshly because it came from you, you learned that failure is not allowed. And every time someone minimized your effort with a dismissive comment, you learned that excellence is the bare minimum. These lessons become armor, but that armor is heavy, suffocating, and designed to keep you from realizing how extraordinary you already are. What makes the fear even more powerful is that it targets the most human parts of you. The parts that care, that want to provide, that want to show up with your whole heart. Women give so much, yet when they question themselves, the world rarely reassures them. Instead, it demands more patience, more strength, more beauty, more sacrifice. And when you can't give more, when you're exhausted, drained, or simply human, this fear steps in and tells you that you failed. But the reality is that the world has been asking you for superhuman effort and offering human-level appreciation in return. Too many women spend their lives believing they're a few steps behind some invisible standard. They're afraid to take big risks because one mistake feels like it will confirm the doubt they try so hard to hide. They hold back from opportunities because the fear of being unprepared outweighs the potential of what they could achieve. They silence their voices because they think what they have to say isn't smart enough, strong enough, important enough. But the truth is, the fear of not being enough keeps more women small than actual limitations ever will. It stops you before you even begin. The most heartbreaking part is that women often fail to see what everyone else can see clearly: their resilience, their adaptability, their brilliance under pressure. You've survived things that would have broken weaker people. You've handled responsibilities that were unfairly placed on your shoulders. You've shown up on days when your spirit was running on fumes. And yet, you question your worth. You downplay your strength. You ignore your victories because internally, the fear keeps whispering, "Do better." But that whisper is a lie, one designed to distract you from the truth that you have always been more than enough. When you strip away the expectations, the comparisons, the noise, what remains is the reality that you were never meant to meet anyone's definition of enough. You were meant to create your own. You are not here to fit into a standard created by people who will never understand your journey. You are not here to earn validation through impossible perfection. You are here to grow, to evolve, to be real, to be human. And there's not a single moment of self-doubt that can change the truth of your inherent, undeniable worth. There comes a moment in every woman's life when she realizes how deeply she has been conditioned to choose everyone else over herself. You've been taught that your value is tied to how much you give, how well you nurture, how willingly you sacrifice. And somewhere in that pattern, the fear grows. The fear that if you finally choose yourself, you'll lose the love you've worked so hard to maintain. It's a fear rooted not in selfishness but in survival. You've learned to equate acceptance with self-abandonment, to believe that your needs are negotiable while everyone else's are law. So every time you consider prioritizing your own well-being, the fear whispers, if you stop giving, they'll stop loving. And that idea is paralyzing. This fear shows up quietly at first. You say yes when your whole spirit is begging you to say no. You give your time, your energy, your heart until you're depleted, because you believe that love is something you earn through endurance. You stay in situations that drain you because walking away feels like betrayal. You apologize for wanting rest. You justify your exhaustion. You convince yourself that maybe if you give a little more, try a little harder, carry a little longer, things will finally shift. But deep down, you feel the truth pressing against your chest. You're holding together relationships and responsibilities that would collapse without your constant unseen work. What makes this fear so powerful is that it manipulates your compassion. You care deeply, so you stay longer than you should. You care deeply, so you forgive what should never have happened. You care deeply, so you accept behaviors that don't reflect the love you give. And because of that compassion, You end up believing that prioritizing yourself is an act of harm. But it's not. It's clarity. The people who truly love you do not require your suffering to feel secure. They don't demand that you diminish yourself to maintain peace. They don't punish you for wanting to breathe, grow, heal, or rise. Love that needs you small is not love. It's dependence dressed as devotion. Still, the fear persists because you've invested so much time, emotion, and identity into these connections. Walking away from one-sided love feels like admitting defeat. Stepping into your needs feels like starting a life you're not sure you're ready for. You worry about the silence that comes after choosing yourself. You worry about the space that will open up when you stop carrying what was never yours to hold. That uncertainty is terrifying because for so long, the familiar, even when painful, felt safer than the unknown. It's not the loss of others you fear most. It's the loss of the role you've always played. But here's what the fear never acknowledges. Choosing yourself doesn't ruin relationships. It reveals them. When you begin honoring your boundaries, the people who benefit from your self-neglect will resist. They'll call you selfish. They'll say you've changed. They'll make you feel guilty for prioritizing your own emotional survival. But their reaction is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their dependence on your silence. The ones who truly value you will adjust. They will respect your growth. They will want to meet you where you are, not keep you where they were comfortable. And somewhere in that shift, you start to recognize that love built on self-sacrifice isn't love, it's fear masquerading as loyalty. The fear of losing love has kept countless women anchored to relationships and environments that were never meant for their future. But your needs are not burdens. Your boundaries are not threats. The moment you allow yourself to be whole, to be honest, to be centered, you begin to understand that love aligned with your truth is not lost when you choose yourself. It finally has room to find you. There's a moment in life when the weight of staying where you are becomes heavier than the fear of moving into the unknown. You feel it, the quiet ache in your chest, the nagging pull in your spirit, the whisper that says, you can't keep living like this. Yet even with that voice growing louder, the idea of starting over feels terrifying. Not because you doubt your abilities, but because you've been conditioned to believe that walking away means failure. Society praises endurance, even when it's endurance in pain, and calls it loyalty. But there's a difference between being loyal to a situation and being loyal to yourself. And far too many women spend years choosing the suffering they know over the freedom they've never allowed themselves to explore. The fear of starting over often begins with the fear of letting go. Letting go of the familiar routines that wrap around you like chains. Letting go of the identities you tied to relationships, jobs, or roles that no longer fit who you're becoming. You worry that if you release what you've been holding on to, you'll be left with nothing but empty hands. But what you forget is that empty hands are the only hands capable of building something new. The world has taught women to hold on, even when it hurts, even when it breaks them, even when it's obvious that the chapter has ended. You've been trained to see leaving as quitting, when in reality, staying in what destroys you is the true surrender. What makes starting over so intimidating is the silence that comes before the rebuild. When the noise of what you walked away from fades, you're left face to face with yourself, your desires, your wounds, your possibilities. And that silence can be overwhelming because it forces you to confront everything you've avoided by staying busy, staying committed, staying stuck. It's in that silence that doubts creep in. What if I can't do it alone? What if I make the wrong choice? What if I'm not strong enough to begin again? But the truth is, the fact that you're questioning your strength is the very proof that you have it. Weakness does not question, it resigns. Strength wrestles, challenges, and refuses to settle. People will often fear your decision to start over because it disrupts their expectations. When you grow beyond where they've kept you, it shakes their sense of control. You'll hear judgments, unsolicited opinions, and stories about how you're supposed to be grateful for what you had. They'll call you impulsive, unreasonable, ungrateful, They'll try to convince you that stability, even harmful stability, is better than the uncertainty of change. But understand this clearly, people who fear their own transformation will always question yours. Their doubt is not your truth. Their fear is not your future. Their comfort is not your destiny. The real power of starting over in reclaiming your identity from the fragments of your past. Every time you take a step toward the unknown, you shed a layer of who you were taught to be and uncover a piece of who you truly are. It's not about rebuilding the version of you that life broke down. It's about constructing the version of you that life tried to hide. You're not taking a step backward, you're stepping into alignment. You're not leaving behind your life, you're leaving behind the limits others placed on your life. And in that process, you begin to realize that starting over isn't a setback, it's a declaration of self-worth. And as you begin again, something remarkable happens. The fear that once felt paralyzing becomes fuel. You start to see the strength in your own decisions, the resilience in your own heart, the brilliance in your own survival. You realize that every ending you feared was actually a doorway disguised as loss. The unknown stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like a promise that your life is not defined by what you walked away from, but by what they're walking toward. There comes a point when hiding becomes more exhausting than being seen, yet the fear of visibility still holds so many women hostage. You've spent years learning how to blend in, how to keep your voice at a volume that won't draw attention, how to carry your strength quietly so no one accuses you of wanting too much space. You've been taught that being visible makes you vulnerable, that the spotlight is dangerous, that if people truly see you, your flaws, your wounds, your brilliance, they'll judge you, reject you, or label you. So you shrink. You stay in the background. You hold your truth behind your teeth, and even though your spirit aches to be expressed, fear convinces you that silence is safer than authenticity. Visibility is terrifying because it exposes the parts of you you've been told to hide, the scars you've collected over years of surviving what was meant to break you, the emotions you were shamed for feeling too deeply, the dreams you were told were too unrealistic, too loud, too disruptive. You fear that if others see the full picture, the messy, powerful, wounded, brilliant version of you, they'll use it against you, that they'll see your imperfections as weaknesses instead of proof that you're human. But hiding those parts of you doesn't protect you, it traps you. You end up performing a version of yourself that feels acceptable but never whole. And that performance becomes a prison you can't breathe in. What makes the fear even heavier is that society has often punished women for being visible. When you speak your truth, someone calls you emotional. When you assert your boundaries, someone calls you difficult. When you succeed, someone tries to minimize it or take credit for it. You learn quickly that visibility comes with a price. And because of that, you start to believe that dimming your light is the safest option. You tell yourself it's better to be underestimated than criticized, better to be unseen than misunderstood. But what you don't realize is that the world doesn't benefit from your invisibility. It depends on it. Because a woman who isn't seen can't disrupt anything. She can't lead, she can't challenge, she can't inspire. The fear of being seen isn't just about others, it's about you. It's about confronting your own reflection without filters or excuses. When you allow yourself to be visible, you have to acknowledge the power you've suppressed. You have to face your potential, your talent, your voice, your purpose. And that can be just as frightening as external judgment, because once you see your own greatness, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to the small life you tried to fit into. You can't pretend you're not capable of more. And stepping into that truth requires courage. Many women were never encouraged to develop. But here's the thing about your scars. They're not proof of damage, they're evidence of survival. Every mark, every crack, every healed wound tells a story of resilience that deserves to be witnessed, not hidden. When you choose to be seen, you're not showing weakness, you're showcasing strength. You're saying, this is who I am, this is what I've lived through, and I'm still standing. Visibility is not about perfection, it's about presence. It's about showing up as the real you, unpolished but powerful, imperfect but undeniable. And when you step into the light, something shifts, not just in you but in every woman watching you. Your courage becomes a mirror for others to see their own possibilities. Your voice gives permission for others to speak. Your presence makes room for others to rise. Being seen isn't just about you. It's about every woman who was taught to stay invisible so the world could remain comfortable. Visibility is liberation, not exposure. It's the moment you stop hiding from the world and the moment the world finally realizes the force that's been here all along. There's a kind of fear most people never name out loud. The fear of your own greatness. Not the fear of failing, not the fear of messing up, but the fear of what would happen if you stopped holding back and stepped fully into who you were meant to be. That fear whispers that if you rise too high, everything in your life will have to change. That if you unleash the strength you've kept contained, people will expect more from you, lean on you, question you, judge you. And there's truth in that. Greatness doesn't let you stay comfortable. It doesn't let you stay invisible. It doesn't let you settle. So you learn to regulate your shine, to manage your power, to dim yourself just enough so that the world doesn't ask you to be the leader you were born to be. But eventually, the suppression becomes suffocating. From a young age, many women were taught to associate ambition with danger. When you aimed high, someone called you unrealistic. When you dreamed big, someone told you to be more practical. When your talent showed potential, someone made sure to remind you not to get ahead of yourself. Little by little, you learn to mistrust your own capability. You were conditioned to believe that greatness belonged to someone else, someone louder, someone bolder, someone with fewer obstacles. You were encouraged to play supportive roles, not starring ones. So even today, when the opportunity to expand appears, the old programming triggers that fear. Am I really capable? Am I ready? Do I deserve this? But deep down, you know those doubts were never yours to begin with. Greatness requires responsibility, and that's what makes women fear it the most. When you show the world what you're capable of, you can't hide behind excuses anymore. You can't pretend you're powerless. You can't shrink back into a version of yourself that feels safe and familiar. And the truth is, part of you knows once you rise, there's no returning to who you were before. That kind of transformation is intimidating, because it demands that you release old identities built on pleasing others, staying quiet, staying small. Greatness asks you to rewrite the story, not follow the script. And rewriting the story often means stepping away from everything and everyone who benefited from your hesitation. The fear of your own greatness also comes from the realization that stepping into it might separate you from people you care about. Not everyone will celebrate your growth. Some will envy it. Some will resent it. Some will try to keep you where they feel comfortable, right beside them, not above them. They'll interpret your evolution as a betrayal, not a breakthrough. And because women are taught to prioritize harmony over personal victory, you hesitate, you dim, you compromise, you hold yourself back so others don't feel left behind. But greatness doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't ask for approval. It demands that you stop negotiating with your potential. Another layer of fear comes from the truth that greatness magnifies everything. Your strengths, your flaws, your mistakes, your wins. When you rise, you're suddenly visible. People watch, people critique, people talk, and even though you're strong enough to handle it, the pressure makes you second guess whether stepping forward is worth it. But what you haven't noticed is this: you're already being watched. People already feel your power. People already sense your potential. Rising doesn't create the pressure. It simply reveals that you were built for it. And beneath all the fear, beneath all the hesitation, lives a version of you that knows exactly who she is. A version of you that knows she was meant to lead, meant to disrupt, meant to elevate. A version of you that's tired of shrinking, tired of waiting, tired of pretending she's not powerful. She's been whispering to you for years, asking for a chance to breathe. Greatness isn't something you become, It's something you finally stop running from. And the moment you stop fearing the magnitude of who you are, that version of you steps forward, not timidly but boldly, knowing she was destined to rise.